Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight. Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're going to talk to you about George Costanza.
George Costanza. You know, the half-naked guy from Seinfeld, right? And his little
Yeah.
Or
It's,
we're
it's
talking.
more current than we normally go, which I was confused by, but, we're here, so tell me about George.
Or in reality, we're going to talk about Prohibition with George Remus, who's a
Who's that?
German American. Yeah, he's George Remus. He's a German American lawyer who would lead a massive bootlegging empire during the Prohibition in the
Oh.
United States, and even without the death and destruction of, say, Al Capone. So he did this a little bit more peacefully than
Okay.
Al Capone did, and he comes at
With
it in a
less,
very
with
unique.
less force, like he was just a good
Yeah,
salesman type guy, or
Yeah,
sort
he
of.
finds some legal. He's a lawyer, so he's going to find some legal loopholes, and I promise you, he's going to be way more entertaining than George Costanza would be, because this is how this isn't like a big like TV series made specifically about this guy. I
Yeah.
don't know, because the story is just absolutely ridiculous. Now
Do
he
you
is
think do you think his
featured.
name's working against him here with George
Yeah, maybe.
Remus?
Remus.
It's not
He
great.
is on. He is a character on Boardwalk Empires. I haven't really watched that show a whole lot. I know he's there,
I
but
obviously have not watched it one bit.
nope, nope. But in any case, he was born in Landsberg, Germany, on November 13th, 1878, and he would arrive in the United States with his family in New York on June 15th, 1882. And like most immigrant families,
Oh,
New
okay.
York isn't your final destination. They go all over the place in the United States trying to find their spot
Right.
in the
So
world.
by all intents and purposes, was raised as an American child, or since what, 4 years old,
No,
or was
he was born in
72?
1878, 1882. He gets over
Yeah.
here, so
So 4.
yeah, 4 years. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I'm good at math.
So he was raised in America, his
Yep.
basically whole life that he can remember.
Yes, yeah, exactly. His family would eventually wind their way into Chicago, where at 14, George would work with his uncle at the family pharmacy. So again, in America at this time, child labor laws are like, meh,
Okay, but I mean,
go
I
work
had
at a
I
pharmacy
had
and
a job
count
at
pills.
I had a job at 14.
Did you?
Yeah, I was at an ice cream shop.
Did you have to have like a special work? Yeah, you
I
had to go out
think,
and get like a
yeah, I had
special
to
like
get,
work permit thing or
yeah,
something
I
like
had to
that,
get a
didn't you?
permit, and I think it was allowed because it was like a small mom and pop shop type deal.
And you probably had very limited hours that you could work. But in any
Oh,
case,
I worked like 4 hours a week. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, at the age of 19, he's going to graduate from the Chicago College of Pharmacy, and
Oh,
he's going to wind up buying that family pharmacy at the age of 21.
nice, not
By
bad.
Not bad. By 24, he's going to start himself a pharmacy empire when he buys another pharmacy. But within that first year of buying the second pharmacy, he's like, I don't like counting pills. This shit
Just bored
sucks.
with it.
He's just bored with it. So he decides to go to law school. He's going to graduate from the Illinois College of Law, which is now DePaul University, and he's going to be admitted to the bar in 1904. He specializes in criminal defense, and it's Chicago, so that naturally leads you to defending murderers because,
Yeah, well, and there's no shortage
Chicago.
of job opportunities for him, I'm sure, which is nice. It's
Not,
good
not in
job security.
Not in Chicago. In 1914, he starts to pioneer this new defense called transitory insanity, which eventually is going to evolve into temporary insanity. So he's arguing
Mm,
that there are periods where it is legit that a person is temporarily insane due to
hmm.
circumstances. Let's say you walk in and your wife's stopping some other guy, and
Yeah.
you lose your mind.
Yeah, it's that seeing red thing argument that,
Yeah.
I blacked out and came to later.
So he's going to be one of the pioneers of this new defense, and keep that in the back of your head as we talk about this, because it's going to come back
I'll
full
try.
circle a little bit later.
I'll
I
do
know
my
you're
best.
not going to remember, but anyways, and and right before Prohibition, he was actually making $500,000 a year, which is equivalent to 6.5 million today. So the guy is very well respected in the law community. He's obviously making a very good living for himself. $500,000 a year
Yeah.
in 1920 is absurd.
Yeah, I
He's
mean,
absurdly rich.
yeah, that 6.5 million a year is insane. Most, like, good football players don't get that.
No,
Like,
So you might be asking yourself at home, how the hell does a lawyer who's making equivalent to $6.5 million a year get into the bootlegging? Like,
Because he was
why even
bored.
bother
I'm
at
not
that
asking
point?
myself that at all. Because he was bored. He conquered the pharmacy empire by the time he was, what, 23, 24
24,
years
yeah,
old?
yeah.
He was looking for
And now
something fun to do.
he became a lawyer just for the shits and giggles of
Just
it.
because
Yeah, I
why
guess.
not? I don't know.
Well, when Prohibition kicks off on January 17th, 1920, Remus naturally is going to begin defending a lot of people who, express their rights to freedom by having a drink and selling a drink and manufacturing a drink. Because as a criminal defender,
They
there are
all
going to be
became
people who are going to
criminals.
be violating the Volstead Act. But John, well, actually, right, what we're doing right now is not criminal because it was never criminal to drink the alcohol. It was only criminal to sell it. So
Not even to
Walmart,
buy
where I
it?
bought this, well, buying and selling and
Okay.
making. You can't do those things. So
But
Walmart was a
if you were
criminal.
to happen upon a pile of beer somewhere, and then right maybe before or after that somebody was selling, I don't know, like 5 pieces of grass for $12, could you buy the grass, and then, oh, you've happened to find a 6 pack, and then you pick that up and
Well, those are some of the many loopholes that exist in the Volstead Act. When the Volstead Act was passed, Prohibition was passed. You like if you had a stockpile of booze, like you're good to go. So there were actually a lot of private clubs and rich people who just rode out Prohibition by buying an ass ton of booze right
yeah,
beforehand and just were good, and
just
no
stock.
laws violated by drinking it.
So
It's
it
fine
was preppers, but for not having
for booze.
alcohol,
Yeah,
not like, apocalyptic
and
things that
there
would
were
be
other
to come,
ways.
by the way.
Yeah, there were other ways to get around like selling alcohol. Like you could go out and buy concentrated grape juice that had
Mm,
a really weird warning label on it that essentially said, "Hey, don't you dare put some yeast in this and fill it up to this mark with water and let it sit for 2 weeks.
right.
Don't do that
No.
because then you'll make wine, and you don't want to do that. Don't do
Well,
that."
I mean, this is again, America being such a safety-oriented state. It's, the warning labels basically.
Yeah,
It's you
yeah.
don't eat Tide Pods. Don't fill this up because it's going to ferment and become liquor, and you don't want to get drunk because now why? Because again, why prohibition?
Well,
Just
we at a future date we will do a whole episode
okay.
on the Volstead
No,
Act and how it created. Well, that's not today. Today is
not
just
today. Just this
on
guy.
George Remus
Okay.
because he's yes. So Remus is obviously defending all these bootleggers, and he's realizing that they're making more than $6.5 million equivalent a year by selling and manufacturing booze. And as a criminal defense lawyer, it's his job to know the Volstead Act inside and out, including
Sure.
all of the loopholes that exist. Like,
Of
if you're
course.
a rabbi,
Especially as
you
a
can,
defense lawyer. Yeah.
If you're for religious purposes, you can have religious wine because
Oh,
we don't want
right.
to.
Yeah. hmm Now,
So that's okay.
could they have religious beer or vodka or whiskey if
I'm sure if it's I'm sure they could probably figure out a way to do that. But the loophole that he found is that any alcohol that was manufactured prior could still be sold with government approval to pharmacies because Johnny, you could get
mhm.
a prescription for your whiskey if you wanted
Well,
because
I mean,
medicinal
well, I
alcohol
mean,
can be.
literally alcoholism. If you just cut them off and stop them, they will die from it. So there
Well,
are. I mean, they give people alcohol in hospital's, like $60 Bush Lights or hams. That's not even hams.
it's a hams, Johnny. It is a ham.
sixty
$60
dollars hams. Can you?
ham.
Yeah, that's
Ooh.
what I'm saying. But they need it. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they would have to have some sort of thing around that. I
Well, of
mean,
course, obviously during this time frame, oh, I have a headache.
yeah,
Well,
right,
here's your
yeah.
prescription for
Yeah, of
whiskey.
course. Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure I'm an alcoholic and I need to
I
have
need it.
liquor.
So what he does is he winds up moving to Cincinnati and he buys a bunch of distilleries, including the Fleischmann distillery, which today you can get 80 proof vodka. That's like
Okay.
grain
I
vodka.
thought it's still
So it's
I thought
cheap,
I'd heard of
crappy
it.
vodka that's high alcohol content.
Which is just what you want in a time like this.
Which is just what you want at a time like this. So he buys up all these distilleries for pennies on the dollars because at this point they're like, well, we made
You
all this
can't do
shit, but we
anything.
can't do anything with it, and we can't make any more. So what are we supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
So he buys up all these old distilleries, and it winds up getting the government contracts to be able to sell these to pharmacies. he winds up owning 80% of the bonded whiskey within a 300-mile radius of Cincinnati. So this is how vested he gets with
Three
buying up the
hundred mile
distilleries
radius? That's
around
huge.
Cincinnati. Yeah, so think of all those, what is it? You've got all the Kentucky bourbons that are down there. He bought,
Yep.
all the hose areas. Well, he's making money doing this, but it's not a lot of money. Completely legal, but not a lot of money. So what he does now is he decides to create a distribution company to transport
Mm-hmm.
that booze from the distillery to the pharmacy, so he controls that revenue stream in addition to just
Nice.
selling it.
Yep.
And he realizes, oh, there's a lot of private little speakeasies that want booze. Now I can't directly sell it to them because that would be illegal. But if
Mm-hmm.
someone were perchance to steal my
That would
liquor
be unfortunate.
from my transportation company,
Yeah,
and
I
then
imagine I imagine robberies were pretty significant at this time, and so the cops are going to understand why all your liquor got stolen, right? And then
yeah.
so but the thieves steal it, so how does he get
So
to any money out of
because
that?
what he does is he has 3,000 employees between the distributors and the breweries, or the distilleries, and he also has people on his payroll that are robbing. The transportation company. So in public, they will go out there and be like, "Give me all your money and your booze, and we want it all." And they'd be like, "Okay, don't shoot
Oh
me."
no. And then they'd meet up at the speakeasy later and be like,
And then they'd meet up at
ah!
the and then of course Remus would sell this shit to the speakeasies for a huge profit.
Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah.
at this point in time, government corruption is just the name of the game. So as long as you're greasing a few wheels with a dollar bill here, you're okay.
Oh,
You're moving along.
thank goodness we wiped out all of government's corruption now. We don't have any of that anymore.
Yeah, there's definitely none of that. So over these 3 years that he's bought the distributors, he's bought the distilleries, he's got the transportation company, his fake
Right.
robbing of himself, he winds up making $60 million, or the equivalent of $784 million today. In 3 years, he makes $60 million doing this.
I could see why he would continue that.
Of course, he's still
That'd
got
be a
his
hard thing to like walk away from or decide
yeah,
not to do.
and he's still a lawyer. He's still practicing law, so he's still got his criminal defense. Like, this is a criminal defense lawyer who's also on the side, running booze.
And so everybody's just thinking, "Man, you sure are doing well for yourself as a criminal defense lawyer." But I guess he was previously
Doing well for
a
himself.
millionaire, right? Essentially,
Yeah,
or whatever the equivalent.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Yeah,
And
although now he is quite literally a millionaire.
Right,
He
yeah.
just made $60 million, not
By
not
every
the
sense of the
500,000.
word.
Yeah, by every sense. So before all this happened, Remus was married and then divorced when he was caught sleeping with his secretary, Augusta Imogen Holmes, who was a young divorcee herself. And
Tale
those
as
two
old
wound
as
up
time.
tale as old as time. You're stumping your legal secretary. So they wind up actually getting married in Newport, Kentucky, in June of 1920, right before the whole booze empire kicks off. Now, with all this money that Remus is making hand over fist, he decides to build himself a mansion for his new wife called the Marble Mansion, where he would hold extravagant parties, including a birthday party for Imogen, where she wore nothing Johnny but a skimpy bathing suit with aquatic dancers and was serenaded by 15-piece orchestra. So,
I would love to
that's
see
that's important. The
what
skinny
was
bathing suit.
yeah,
I
what that was
guarantee
considered.
I guarantee you, it's like a one-piece suit without that little dress part.
Yeah, down to mid. It's probably mid thigh.
Yeah,
Probably has
yeah.
sleeves.
Yeah,
Little
it's not. It's not.
collar.
It's not a. It's not a bikini from today's standpoint. It's definitely not that.
She would look overdressed at every pool party anybody from today has
Ever
been
had
to
from
ever.
that? Yes. I guarantee it. I don't know what she was wearing, but I guarantee it's a very modest swimsuit today. Everything of course is going to come crashing down for Remus because
Oh shoot!
you know
Why? How? Unbelievable!
right? Because he's committing everybody kind of knows what's going on at this point. Like, I mean, he's like, you got a lot of booze that just comes up stolen.
When you're making $500,000 or $1,000,000 a year or something like that, like, and you have a job that's good and you came from money, like, you can work with that. 60 million. I mean, that's just a insane amount of money.
It's
and
the
to
problem
continue to have your company get stolen from time and time again.
Time again. People
What
gonna
are
look at
the
it.
odds. I mean, you would think eventually he would shell out for more security.
So, right. So what winds up happening is he has to pay off. There are prohibition agents all over the place. Although they're not really all over the place, because that's another thing about that they really screwed up with prohibition, is they didn't actually have the police agency to
Nobody.
enforce any of this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so normally you grease the wheels by throwing $1,000 at them, and well, hell, that's more than they've seen in a month, so they're okay with it. But he tries to do this in Indianapolis and bribe away a prohibition agent who decides, no, I'm not going to take your bribe. I know you're selling illegal booze, and he arrests him and brings him up on over 2,000 charges of a violation of the Volstead Act.
So an overzealous Hoosier is what brought this guy down.
Yeah, the overzealous Hoosier. It took jurors only 2 hours to convict him, and he would be sentenced to 2 years in the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary. So,
I'll bet like an hour and a half of that was them reading off what he was being charged with.
Yeah, because it's over 2,000 charges. And that's the thing, though. Think about this, though. He is convicted of over 2,000 violations of the Volstead Act, and his punishment is 2 years in jail.
Well, it's
And he's making
it's
1/1000th
of a year per punishment.
Yeah, and he made $60 million. Okay,
I assume he was white.
I gotta see. Well, yeah.
So that's a pretty standard prison sentence, I think.
He's got to serve 2 years in jail, and he's still got $60 million in the bank. Oh no, don't do this. And actually, he winds up taking a lot of his money and giving it over to his wife, for his wife to control his estate while he's in jail.
On account of that way, they definitely can't come after any of it or take any of it back.
Yep. Now, I think we all know where this is probably going. You give your wife all that access to money, and you're in jail for a couple of years.
And she is waiting for you when you get out, having protected said money, minus taking some out for expenses and trips. Like what?
Hey, right? So if this wasn't a Hollywood story enough about this odd way of this guy becoming a bootlegger, while in jail, he's going to befriend a Franklin Dodge, who's actually an undercover prohibition agent. Who's
in jail?
To try to,
they're putting seeds in?
He's a seed in jail. And he's trying to gain information out of Remus, because Remus obviously did have a pretty good empire, and there could be a lot more arrests to come from him if they can get some information out of him. But what Franklin Dodge does with this information, when he finds out, oh, you have a hot wife who likes swimsuit parties, and she's got control of all your $60 million empire.
Skimpy swimsuit parties.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and resign my position as a prohibition agent and get myself out of jail and go meet up with Imogen and start an illicit affair with her.
That was easy.
Now, yeah, which is
like,
yeah.
what,
she's
how,
like, yeah.
I mean, is this Brad Pitt coming in for this role?
Maybe we put Brad Pitt in the role. I think you get Brad Pitt.
It'd make it believable. Leonardo DiCaprio's got to be in it.
Leo could be
who's the gray-haired guy? George Clooney. George Clooney, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think Leo could be maybe George Remus, although he does not look at all like George Remus. But in that like Catch Me If You Can kind of role, because that's
right.
Reminds me
just kind of a bit of a con man, bit of a smooth talker, can get his way out of situations. Yeah, all right.
Yep.
We cast a film. That's great.
We did what we just did. Imogen and Dodge wind up actually selling off as much as they can of Remus's of empire, including liquidating all of his distilleries, as well as the Fleischmann distillery itself, for millions and millions of dollars. They sell all this shit off. They in turn give Remus $100 from the sale of the Fleischmann distillery. So that was nice of them.
I mean, that's a callback to something, right? Like they had to have had some sort of $100 thing between him and his wife, and that's a double middle fingers from it.
I'm sure.
It's gotta be.
It's a double middle fingers. Now, they obviously you've got this point where he's only in jail for 2 years, so he's gonna be pissed when he comes out. So what do? The couple tries to get him deported because, after all, he is German born. So he's not a U.S. born citizen.
I'm sorry. Why are they here?
Why are who here? The couple?
Get the hell out.
Just how? Well, because that's the logical thing, John. Nobody does anything logical in stories like this.
I mean, good God, hop a plane to like France or something. I don't know.
Hawaii. Wherever you want to go, just have at it. So they try to get him deported, and that doesn't work. When that doesn't work, they come up with a plan to to hire a hitman to kill Remus while he's in jail. They even pay the guy $15,000, but Dodge is like, so if Imogene betrayed her first husband and then betrayed Remus, she probably might betray me too. So Dodge gets a little bit of cold feet, and he goes to Remus in jail and says, "Hey, yeah, we try to hire a hitman to kill you. So heads up,
Heads up, someone's gonna try to kill you in jail, where you have very little control over your day-to-day activities.
your wife is kind of a bitch. You might want to avoid her when you get out." So Remus is going to get out of jail, and when he gets home, he discovers his mansion, which he still owns, but it's empty of like pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And he's got divorce papers kind of waiting at the house for him because obviously Imogene's now ready to spread her wings and fly away.
She's gonna move
so to
on.
speak. She's
Yeah.
moving on
To greener
so
pastures.
to greener pastures. So on October 6th, 1927, Remus is going to be going to his court appearance for his divorce hearing. On his way, he sees Imogene in a cab and has his driver, like he tells his driver, "Listen, run her off the road." And the driver's like, "Okay, that sounds reasonable." So in downtown in broad public,
That guy's like, all right, I've been waiting for this call my whole life. Let's do this.
They ram the taxi car, ram her off the road. When she's off the road, Remus gets out of his car, goes up to her cab, and shoots her in the stomach, like to the shock and awe of like everybody that's around. Like he shoots her fatally in the stomach and winds up killing her in broad daylight, in public, in front of the Springhouse gazebo. During his trial, this is where I said it was gonna come back full circle. He's gonna claim transitory insanity. He tells the jury, like, "Look, it's not my fault. She stole all my money when I was in jail. She had an illicit affair with somebody with me while I was in jail who pretended to be my friend but was actually an undercover Prohibition agent.
Fair.
They hired a fucking hitman to kill me."
Yep, fair. Yeah.
Fair. And so like clearly, like I just,
Right,
temporary insanity.
but isn't the trouble with this whole argument, at least by today's standards, that he didn't, at that point, he didn't see her like in the act of doing everything. He had time to reconcile all of that, and so it was much after the fact of all of these things. So that's a tough
and so and that's what the prosecutors hung on, and they also hired the prosecutor. By the way, is actually former President William Howard Taft's son, Charles Taft.
Oh, Charlie.
Who's prosecuting. Charlie Taft, he's prosecuting this, and he goes to great lengths, including hiring the foremost psychiatrists to evaluate Remus, and they all say, "Dude's not crazy. He never has been crazy. He's of sound mind."
He is actually a brilliant person who has built multiple business empires and done very well for himself over the years, and he's doing just fine. Turns out money and power and having everything you want just makes you think that you can do things like run people off the road and then shoot them in the stomach when you're mad at them.
Yeah, but see, Johnny,
did he get away with it?
We live in the United States, and in the United States, in our justice system, we are tried by a jury of our peers, Johnny, and all you have to
find
do is
his peers. Good God.
Yeah, convince 12 people that you're good to go, and it doesn't much matter what the actual law is or any of that. If you can convince
we've seen that
people
recently
that you're good, you're good. And wouldn't you know, Johnny, after 19 minutes of deliberation, they find 19 minutes. That's barely enough time to get back into the room and be like, "Hey, what do we all think?" 19 minutes, not guilty due to reason of transitory insanity.
They were probably just excited that they had such a new term to use. And like, I understand what that means, and I'm going to say he had it. They talked like that because they were dumb.
Well, and they're in Ohio, so, it is that. And I lived in Ohio for a while, so you all at home can just... Anyways. But the thing with the whole insanity defense is that it doesn't mean that you're not punished. It doesn't mean that there are roses.
Oh, that's right.
Candy
that's right. You don't get to go, but you're insane.
Because you're insane, so you get to go to the state insane asylum.
That's got to be so much worse than jail.
Which it would be, except for the fact that that Remus is not insane, and Remus is a genius, and Remus uses the entire prosecution's arguments that he wasn't insane, and all the prosecutors, psychiatrists that said he wasn't insane,
He
to
just shows
prove
that to the people
to
at
the
the
state
insane asylum.
asylum that he's not insane. And so
And
only
they're like,
after
well, we have to
7
let you
months,
go.
yeah, after 7 months, he gets let go for ramming his wife off the road and shooting her in the stomach and letting her die in broad daylight in open public. How is this not a movie? I don't get
Because
it.
he gets away at the end. Like with the
That's
movie.
okay.
No, in
That's
the movie, you
okay.
got to have something. That's an
So
awful movie, and it's a glaring example of how crap our justice system. That's why it's not a movie. They tried to make it, kept getting shut down by Big Brother.
now, after all of this, he decides to leave the life of crime. So once after he got away with murdering his wife, and got away with
Once he discovered he
the
was
bootlegging
literally
empire.
untouchable and could do whatever he wanted, he decided to keep doing that.
No, he actually stops. He legitimately stops. He
stopped.
opens.
Okay.
Yeah, he stops. He opens up a contracting company, and he's going to work there until 1950 in August when he has a stroke.
Of
He
good
will
luck.
survive. Yeah, of good luck. Stroke buddies. He has a stroke, and he will wind up living in basically a what do they call that, old person's home?
Oh,
Assisted
like
living.
a assisted living facility. Yeah.
He lives in an assisted living facility for 2 more years before he eventually is going to die in 1952. But still, the German immigrant comes to the United States. With all odds, buys a pharmacy, buys a second pharmacy, gets bored with that, becomes a lawyer. Like he is the founder of the whole transitory insanity defense. Becomes such a successful lawyer that the guy's making $500,000 a year in 1920, which still $500,000 a day is pretty damn good for a lawyer, let alone back then.
I'd be all right with $500,000 a year.
Finds a loophole in the law in the Volstead Act to allow him to buy distilleries and sell the booze to pharmacies, which he then steals from himself and sells to speakeasies and makes $60 million in 3 years. Gets arrested, only spends 2 years, still has all of his money, murders his wife, gets away with it, and is like, yep, now I'm a contractor. This is like the rags to riches American story of pro-immigration.
Tommy, you just proved that the last 2 minutes could have just been like
An episode.
the whole episode. Whole episode
Well,
needed 2 minutes.
with that said, thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Join us. Join us next week when we talk about a Civil War battle of some sorts. Yeah.